Hey, Screamers, welcome to a very, very special edition of the Screen Team right here on KWOC. I don't know if you know or not, but a couple weeks ago, we've lost one of the last great kind of movie stars of our generation, of past generation as well. Burt Reynolds passed away a couple weeks ago at the age of 82. So we're going to spend this half hour of the Screen Team paying tribute to Mr. Burt Reynolds. And to help us do that, we've got Brad here with us. Brad, first off, I'm assuming since that you're here talking about it, that you're a big Burt Reynolds fan, right?
Well, I am. Yeah, absolutely. That's, I kind of messaged you to say, hey, since he passed away a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
I think now would be a good time to maybe look at a couple of his movies that you may have not done before.
Sure.
And so we picked probably three of his better movies. And, the first one was when basically he broke out, and this was his first big movie. But I also just kind of thinking back to when I was younger, and this was mid 70s, early 70s to right after probably the turn of in the 1980s. That was his big time, and he was probably one of the largest Hollywood stars for that 10-year period, but then all of a sudden he just kind of disappeared, and so this probably the younger the following generation probably doesn't know all that much about him. So I think a good time to possibly put these out in front of them. Maybe we can get a few people who haven't seen these before to absolutely watch them.
And it's interesting because a couple of our movies we're going to be reviewing, Deliverance and The Longest Yard, is when he kind of got it started out and was kind of making that big movie star aspect of himself. But one of the movies, Boogie Nights, is how he kind of reinvented himself for a different generation, and he kind of came back into that Hollywood spotlight. So
Absolutely.
We'll be talking a little kind of different generations with each film. But let's talk about our first film. It's called Deliverance, and I'm sure a lot of folks are familiar with maybe some of the themes of this movie or some of the scenes in this movie.
Absolutely.
But maybe not the whole story as well. I've seen this movie only once, and it's been many, many years ago.
Okay.
But before I saw it, I remember, the banjo.
Absolutely.
And I'd always remember, okay, why do people make such a big deal about that? Then I saw the movie and I was like, oh, okay, all right, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's and it's funny. So I, like you, I had seen this. So I'm not quite old enough to have seen it when it came out, and at the movies, because obviously it was rated R. If you've seen the movie, you know why. But after movies came out in the theaters, they'd come out and on they'd show them on network TV. But they'd be highly edited, let's say. So, we all were anxiously awaiting it coming out because we had heard about it and everything. And then, so I do remember it. And, of course, a lot of it was edited, but you could get obviously you could kind of get the understanding of what had happened and what the movie was about. So it's basically about four buddies going and taking a canoe trip because they're going to be putting a dam on one of the rivers, to as I think Burt Reynolds' character says, to provide a little bit more electricity to Atlanta. So it's northern Georgia in the mountains, and it's pretty hillbilly, and very rural. And they go there, and it's like the other side of the moon when they get there.
Yeah.
It's dirt roads, junk, just terrible living conditions, let's say. And they're there to go have fun. So, this is 1972. It's
you had mentioned this is one of Burt's, maybe not his first role, but his first one that
the breakout. So he had done a little time on TV, spent time on a few TV series that he was a regular on, and then actually he tried being starting another TV series, but had been canceled after a year. So this was kind of his first breakout film.
Sure.
and it's he plays kind of the alpha male in the 4-person group, and the other 3 are kind of they kind of get pushed around by him. He's the one driving this canoe trip.
Yeah.
He's the one that's really kind of forcing them to do it. One guy on the way there says, "Why don't we just go play around a golf?" And probably looking back at it, they probably wish they'd had.
Exactly. But this movie has not only Burt Reynolds in it, but it's got some other big heavyweights in it. John Voight's in it.
Yep.
And I believe this was the first movie role for Ned Beatty too, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then Ronnie Cox, who is kind of plays he's actually the guy that does the dueling banjos with he's the guy that's guitar, and he's kind of the most refined of the group, and so he does the whole dueling banjos thing, which is, like you say, it's kind of it's an iconic scene, and now, I mean, everybody since 1972 probably uses that as a kind of a stereotypical, backwoods, and it's kind of the warning sign of, hey, you better turn around and go the other way, because trouble is ahead.
It's definitely been put in our zeitgeist for sure. I mean, it's just it's a pop culture reference and icon for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deliverance. Do you like the movie? Are you a fan of it?
Well, like I said, I'd seen it once when probably in 73 or 74 when it came out, and I never watched it again until we talked about doing this, and then I did watch it again, and it is a quality movie. It's well made. It has its points. It has its obviously the second iconic scene is really it's funny, I read about this, and I don't know how much we want to talk about it, but it is, they do run into a couple of hunters in the wilderness, and the hunters get upset because the 2 people from the city ask them, are you guys moonshiners? So, which is a stereotypical question, and it upsets them. Now, whether it would have gone that way or not, following that, but they do basically attack these 2 people.
They assault them.
They assault them, sexually assault the one person, and then that kind of and they had gotten separated, the 4, so there were 2 groups of 2 in different canoes, and then the other canoe comes up and basically kind of rescues them by killing one of them and then chasing the other one away.
Yeah.
And so that's that becomes a decision on what do we do? Do we turn ourselves in? And well, they then decide that, well, everybody up, if we're going to go to trial with a jury of their peers, we have no chance.
Sure. I don't remember if I'm remembering this correctly or not, but I think towards the final act of the film, there is kind of an action sequence in the river, is there not?
Yes.
And we kind of get to see Burt Reynolds in his, athletic kind of glory, right?
Right, absolutely. So they've, this river does have several rapids, and that is, I think, one of the final scenes. Burt does. He actually leads them through, but ends up getting thrown out and fractures his leg, compound fracture.
Yeah.
And they end up making it down, but with the help of the other 2. They kind of get rescued, and they kind of leave it at that as far as the film goes. And it's just kind of I think it's very telling in the movie that where they get rescued is right where the dam is, kind of going in, and it kind of all ends at that place. So, do I like it? It's a well-made movie. It is very tough to watch. It is very tough to watch. That's
why I haven't seen it again.
Yeah, it is. It's not a happy film. It's definitely obviously the sexual assault is very brutal. it's also, I think it has a lot to do with the times. This was made in 1972, like I said, and it's kind of the environmental. It's kind of an environmentalist movie, as in the encroachment of civilization into a uncharted, untapped wilderness. So yeah, it's got a lot of things going, and it's, like I said, it's well made. And very well acted. Burt Reynolds did a great job. Obviously, Jon Voight is an Oscar-winning actor.
He's pretty darn good.
Yeah, he is. He's really good.
So barring any chance of you reviewing this movie for somebody else, do you have any inclination to watch this movie again?
Since my wife absolutely refused to watch it, for people who love movies, I think it's absolutely
something you gotta
a must watch.
You gotta check off.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's tough, and I probably would not watch it again. That's a fair point.
The movie's called Deliverance, starring Burt Reynolds and Jon Voight and Ned Beatty, and of course you can find it on DVD. We've got more reviews coming in our Burt Reynolds tribute. It's coming your way next, right here on the Screen Team.